So consciousness is something that every human on this planet possesses, and in a broad definition, consciousness is the thing that is perceiving your existence. And our consciousness dictates many actions that we take in our daily lives, from deciding whether we want to go play video games or not, to deciding whether we want to get work done. We make the conscious action to do either or. But what a lot of people don't understand is there are levels to consciousness, and we can broadly define them into four: the drone, the artist, the alchemist, and the wizard. And these may sound a little confusing at first, but I'll just get right into it and start off with level one, the drone. The drone is considered a very low vibrational state of consciousness for the most part, and something that most drones do universally is accept what they're told and question none of it. They tend to look externally for their source of power, and a good way to tell if somebody is a drone is to see if they say things like, oh, I could do this or that if I had more money, more time, more energy, etc. You name it, they'll say that's the reason why they aren't progressing as a person. So that often means that when we're on the drone level, we often let the actions of others dictate our lives instead of choosing what we want to do for ourselves. We let others choose our actions for us, and then oftentimes we live a very deeply unsatisfying life as a result. So let me give an example. If somebody's on the drone state of consciousness and I go to school and wear something that they may find weird or silly, they'll often ridicule and mock me for wearing that. And if I'm on the drone level of consciousness and I am wearing the weird or silly thing, these actions that others take will often deeply affect me. Thus, as a result, I will start to think things like I'm not good enough and I'm not good enough to appreciate who I am as a person. So when we are on the drone level, we often think that there are no consequences for our actions, and as a result, we become a victim of our circumstances. When I was on the drone level of consciousness, I often ate unhealthy, processed junk food because I believed that there were no consequences to my actions, thus as a result becoming a victim of circumstance. Something that I also noticed when I was on the drone level was I was a very cynical and for the most part negative person in my life. When I believed that I was a victim of circumstance, what I didn't realize is that any action that I took, even if it was as a child, will end up affecting me whether it is immediate or delayed. I'd constantly ridicule and shame others for the actions that they took, and for no real reason other than subconsciously, I was disappointed in myself. And I was doing this because something the subconscious mind loves to do is project itself onto others. So when I was ridiculing others for the actions that they took, I was actually ridiculing myself in a way that I didn't really understand at the time. Thus, as a result, I ended up staying stagnant in terms of personal growth. If we often have these negative emotions built up inside ourselves from the ridicule, we never fully express ourselves out of fear of offending someone. That often leads to lower levels of confidence and less expression of ourselves and more suppression of our ideas. And since the drone often limits themselves due to lower levels of confidence, they end up limiting themselves in all aspects of life, such as physically, creatively, professionally, and emotionally. So now I'd like to get on to level two, the artist. So where the drone is all about suppression, the artist is all about expression of not only the self, but their ideas and how they view reality. And this is when we start to get things off our chest that we were suppressing when we were on the drone level of consciousness. Here, we tend to hold more power from within, and we start to share our thoughts and experiences with others more openly than we ever would before as drones. This is where artists tend to hold much more power over drones because we now gain the ability to see the world the way they see the world. Now, the problem with the artist is they tend to focus only on the positives or only on the negatives. Thus, as a result, the artist is unable to pierce the veil of separation and view life from a non-dualistic perspective because they still live primarily within the ego. When we're artists, we love to think and create new worlds into existence, but the problem is we never fully live in them. Artists are still dictated by their emotions, and they still let minor inconveniences like traffic jams or being 5 minutes late to school deeply affect them. Thus, as a result, they still often have a lot of negativity in their daily lives and a lot less positivity than they could have by just letting them go. And it's hard not to. I still struggle with this all the time, but the key is not to attach your emotions to these actions that happen in your daily life, because oftentimes they are more detrimental than they are beneficial. Some of the greatest artists who have passed on live most of their lives in outward awareness. They are more worried about the external world and their place in it, rather than harnessing the power and understanding that you gain from going deep inside yourself. As an artist, although we are aware of our own experience, we haven't taken the time to look inward and fully start to unlock the secrets of the self. And through things like introversion and meditation and just spending time with yourself, however it may be, you truly do begin to unlock the secrets of the self, so to speak, and you truly realize that you can gain immense power from doing so. And this immense power that I'm talking about is the realization that you create your own reality. So when you realize this, you begin to manifest aspects of your life, the best aspects, I should say, into the external world to help other people do the same. And since the artist is so fixated on the external world, they still may not realize the power that their work holds to shape other people's realities. Thus, they may use the power that they hold in a negative and egotistical way. Now, kind of following the pattern of going up these levels of consciousness, the alchemist is a very introverted state of being for the most part, and when you start exhibiting traits of the alchemist, this is when things get interesting, to say the least. And the reason I say this is because the main goal of the alchemist is transformation, and not just any type of transformation. They focus on self-transformation because they know that that is the way that they can help not only themselves, but the external world in the best way that they know possible. And due to focusing on self-improvement, this is when things like your diet, the people you surround yourself with, and your spiritual practice start to become main focal points in your life. This is when we start to take that leap of faith and start to dive deep within ourselves to do the inner work that we know needs to be done. Once I began to tap into my alchemist traits, I started to realize that I was not put on this earth to live up to other people's expectations of who I should be. Once you dive deep within yourself, you realize that you can't just focus on the positive aspects in your life. You need to embrace your shadow self, so to speak, and become one with it in order to continue progressing as a person. When you embrace your shadow self and the negative aspects in your life, you begin to fuse them together with the positive aspects, and through that you gain a completely new perspective on how you view reality. Something that happens too is you stop taking insults from other people so personally, and you begin to just kind of let them flow through you rather than affect you and let them ruin your day like you would as a drone. When I reached this level, I started to realize that in order to gain true fulfillment in my life, I need to start making the change to move towards my true desires rather than choosing the easy way out and choosing a life that I was just okay with. The alchemist tends to live by the saying, as within, so without, meaning how you perceive the external world is a direct manifestation of your internal experience. This is why many introverts I meet tend to exhibit traits of the alchemist, because they spend a good chunk of the day inside their minds rather than attaching to aspects of their external reality like most extroverts do. A key shift that happens when you fully reach the level of the alchemist is you stop perceiving this reality through the vantage point of the ego and instead become the observer of the experience rather than identifying with it. And this is a very powerful vantage point to have, because doubts, fears, and other limiting beliefs are observed rather than identified with, allowing the alchemist to focus on what is important in their lives rather than obsessing and overthinking the negative aspects in their life that hinder their growth. The wizard is a very elusive state of being for most people, including me. I think I've only reached the state of the wizard maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. Some good examples of people whose base state of consciousness is or was on this level is the Dalai Lama, Ram Dass, Maharaji, Siddhartha Gautama, or otherwise known as the Buddha, And you can tell when somebody's on this level because they radiate it from their soul. You can tell instantly if someone's on this level because they quite literally live out their daily lives in a higher state of consciousness. And it's not some elusive thing, even though it may seem like it. Any person on this planet can reach this state of consciousness in a variety of ways. Don't confuse reaching this level with enlightenment because those are two totally separate things. Where enlightenment, or what a lot of people like to refer to it as Christ consciousness, is being fully aware and understanding how innately connected you are to everything and how you are it just as much as it is you. The difference is when you reach the level of the wizard, you fully understand what I like to call the Trinity of Being. And the Trinity of Being is having full mastery over mind, body, and spirit. Because of that, the wizard loves themselves unconditionally, and this is where amazing things start to happen. You understand it's all about synthesizing the good and the bad, then using that to have a mind state of unity and acceptance rather than judgment and hatred. When you break the shackles of judgment, you aren't confined to who you think you are or should be. When you reach this level, you just simply let go of all emotion and expression and simply let it pass through you, and that in and of itself is meditation in its purest form. The wizard understands that culture, society, and even reality itself is merely an illusion or a hallucination, as Terence McKenna likes to call it, if you will. But they understand that while they are trapped in this collective hallucination, they must create their own illusion to escape this hallucination that most of us are sucked into. They quite literally live in their own reality that is beyond judgment and is beyond control and hatred that is so prominent in our society today. The main difference between the alchemist and the wizard is the alchemist sees the power that individuality holds to aid them in their journey. The wizard, along with seeing the power within, they also see the power that other people have to shape their reality just as much as they themselves can. This is why most world leaders are in fact wizards to an extent, because they can move above the crowd and ultimately rise to power and control many aspects of our daily lives. When you access the wizard state of consciousness, you can pierce the illusion of culture and see it for the game that it truly is. This is why most wizards either control culture to an extent or decide to live outside of it because they know it's a sort of con game, for lack of a better word. The wizard sees the trap that is externalizing their power because it's not beneficial in any way, shape, or form, and as a result reclaim 100% of it back because they don't externalize it unnecessarily. Anything that hinders the wizard in any way, shape, or form simply goes right through them, and thus as a result, they seem to move effortlessly throughout life because they understand the fundamental laws that govern this universe. This is why, to the average person, the wizard's life seems so unreal because they don't have the fundamental understanding that the wizard holds, thus hindering them from believing that such a life even exists. So, that was an overview of my understanding of the 4 levels of consciousness and my experiences with each one. If I had to say where I'm at right now, I'd say I'm predominantly an artist, but I also display many traits of the alchemist, so I'd say I'm somewhere in between. Comment down below where you think you are. I'd love to hear it. And I got many more videos planned, so subscribe if you like this video. Thanks for watching. Leave a like. Peace.